Ayan, all right, here we go mga kameta. Kamusta naman kayo dyan? Pasensya na kung late tayo humabol dito. Medyo ang dami natin mga inasikaso. But nevertheless, at least dun sa mga followers natin nagising pa and joining us from iba't ibang lugar all around the world, whether ito ay gitnang silangan, whether ito ay Estados Unidos, or yung mga, of course, ka-QC natin. Habulin lang natin ito, guys. Kanina, of course, abangan nyo yung discussion natin sa Safe House, of course, together with our very great colleagues at One News, fellow hosts, and of course, no less than Ronald Llamas, whom we'll have also tomorrow for another show. We'll also have another former justice, very senior justice, with us for an analysis again of the Supreme Court ruling. As we said, guys, of course, you have to respect the institutional integrity of the court, and as much as possible, of course, refrain from casting any aspersions. I know emotions were very high last week, and a lot of things were said, but I think it's very important that we look at the substance of the case, the facts of the case, and then proceed with it accordingly. Please check out yung today lang na update natin sa ating YouTube, a very comprehensive analysis of yung Supreme Court ruling, relevant aspects of this. We also look at, guys, for instance, what former Chief Justice Panginiban said about this, about the timing of it, whether sufficient time was given to it, and of course, soon, God willing, we're also hoping to have another former Justice Ascuna with us, so to also understand, motions for motion for reconsideration, and it steps forward to avoid a constitutional crisis, and as much as possible to make sure na we get out of this a better democracy, a stronger democracy, a more resilient democracy. Now, having said that, guys, gusto ko lang balikan yung Senado because today we had an update finally dito sa composition sa Senate. I mean, obviously, alam na natin by this point in time sino mga members of majority and minority, just as we talked about this weeks ago, right? Remember, I was in Gdansk pa, Denzik pa, in the Baltic region pa 2 weeks ago, at I was already informed that not only Bam but Kiko was also inclined to join the majority, and there was no indication whatsoever that they were going to reconsider it, despite, I would just say, to put it mildly, skepticism and reservations that were expressed galing sa kanilang mga supporters. So ito na, guys, we have already the breakdown of the committees, which in many ways, if you look at it, guys, this kind of um, reinforces yung some of the concerns that we raised earlier. As I said, as critical thinking, guys, as critical thinking citizens, as people who believe in good governance, ultimately we have to make sure that people that we vote into power, people that we support, continue to fight a good fight. And since no one is perfect, no one is sacrosanct, it's important that we proactively engage the political process and proactively nudge yung ating mga liderato to move in the right direction. So ito, guys, so ito yung breakdown ng majority, and again, I think there was a piece by Politico. I don't know whether it was a piece by Politico or was it a one of those news sites, among others, kung saan pinag-usapan nila, for instance, ang um, the possibility that there could have been actually a change in leadership. One version of news I heard is that Tito Soto was just 2 votes short of basically becoming new leader of the Senate. But at the end of the day, it looks like, as far as Malacanang and the President Marcos is concerned, I don't think he was really in the mood for some sort of dramatic changes. I mean, just had Chis Escudero been replaced, there would have been a lot of drama. Remember yung was it 2018 when Pantaleon Alvarez and Arroyo, that whole drama, sino bang speaker, sino bang hindi speaker, sino bang nasa likod ng presidente, and there was delay and so on. I remember very well when I was breaking that down for GMA Network back in the day. So I think the instinct of the president, and please check out yung ating comprehensive analysis of the SONA right after attending it, being there in Batasan. My sense is the president wanted to project this kind of technocratic serenity, if I can put it that way. Yung idea na, yes, marami tayong mga political na basically mga hidwan, there's a lot of back and forth, there's a lot of frustration and whatnot. But nevertheless, hopefully, dito sa aking last 3 years in office, in my legacy years, I want to focus on issues that are dear to our people, and that's why easily 45-50% ng kanyang speech in one way or another had to do education, basic issue, gut issues, things that, of course, in fairness, Bam and Kiko have promised to focus on, especially now that they're going to be in charge of relevant committees that they were always very keen on leading. So, as far as Bam Aquino is concerned, he's going to be the chairman of Committee on Basic Education sa Senado. And in fairness naman to Bam, in the sense that he has been emphasizing the importance of education. Alam natin na as one international observer put it, na pinag-aralan talaga yung mga numbers natin, yung sitwasyon natin. May ticking time bomb tayo in terms of the education crisis that we're facing. And it's very clear that during elections, Bam Aquino's emphasis on education ay nag-resonate, especially dun sa mga kabataan. And no less than President BBM also yesterday during sa kanyang State of the Nation address constantly went back to the issue of education, constantly went back and emphasized bakit mahalaga ang edukasyon at mahalaga na bigyan ng sapat na atensyon at investments among others, yung ating mga guro, yung ating mga estudyante, yung infrastruktura, yung mga laptops, siguraduhin na walang kalokohan na mangyari. So congratulations. And some people took my congrats as quite ironic, to put it mildly, but in fairness, I hope he makes the most out of it. Kiko Pangilinan, also congratulations. He will become the committee chairman for agriculture. Again, ito ay isang issue na malapit sa kanyang puso. We know that back in the day, when for a time he was not part of the Senate, about a decade ago, actually he served at a very senior position sa Department of Agriculture. This is the time of Pinoy, if I'm not mistaken, before returning again to Senate in 2016, right? So again, two persons who are very much appreciated by the Pink Movement, by supporters of the Pink Movement, two individuals who have, I think, a solid track record of fighting the good fight and doing the right thing. Obviously, none of this means that things could not have been even more strident pagdating sa resistance to Dutertismo, etc. But nevertheless, at least there are two people. Now we know their heart is in the right place, and clearly their mind is also in the right place, are going to take over two very important issues, agriculture and education. And that's why I also said ironic na actually hindi lang parang harkening back to Pinoy yung sona ni BBM. In many ways also the points that he raised, the cadence, the narrative, the sensibilities, the I would say the very vision he was laying out, medyo nag-echo rin dun sa quote-unquote pragmatic emphasis or basically logic na invoke ni Senator Kiko Pangilinan and Senator Bam Aquino for the decision to join the majority in spite of very spirited criticism, including from yours truly. Now, going back to this, so ito yung rest of it. So basically, Bam and Kiko, each of them got one committee, and this was exactly the committees they were looking for. But again, to give you an idea of what kind of Senate we're looking at, look at the leadership of all these relevant committees. So Blue Ribbon Committee will be led by former Congressman and now Senator Rodante Marcoleta. Obviously, mahalaga ito yung Blue Ribbon committee because basically this is where you can call hearings about whether major abuses of power, to scrutinize, to fiscalize. So Senator Marcoleta will have a very important position, and he'll be very powerful in terms of holding hearings that could be relevant to issues of either abuse of power or issues that are of national interest. So Blue Ribbon Committee goes to Marcoleta. Basic education and agriculture, we already mentioned that. Here, this is very important. Alan Peter Cayetano will be actually a very, very powerful, influential figure in the upcoming 20th Congress. So first of all, he's going to get Committee on Accounts. Very, very important yon. But Alan Peter Cayetano will also get also other very important one. He'll also get sorry, actually dalawa silang. He'll also get higher technical and vocational education. While yung sister niya, Pia Cayetano, will get energy and will get ways and means. So basically, the Cayetanos will be in charge of two very powerful committees: accounts and ways and means. Right? This is very important. Now, eto pa, Committee on Justice. Hawakan din yan ni Alan Peter Cayetano. That also is a very, very powerful committee. Naalala niyo yung panahon ni Digong, for instance, the Committee on Justice, was it Richard Gordon ba yan? Played a very important role amidst all of the very tragic drama involving not only the issues of extrajudicial killings and abuse of power, but also the case of former Senator Leila de Lima, right? Um, by the way, Senator Mark Orleta will also get another committee, Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship. This is also very important, another position he gets. So multiple positions for Mark Orleta, key positions and multiple positions for the two Cayetanos. Robin Hood Padilla alone will also get multiple committee hearings. First of all, obviously, constitutional amendments and revisions of codes. Alam naman natin, kinuha rin niya dati yan, even if the argument is that usually this is a kind of committee that goes to people who are not only lawyers per se but also people who are experts in terms of constitutional law or matters involving constitutional law. Obviously this is also a kind of basically a recognition, let's just say, of Senator Padilla's commitment to changing the political system. The senators, call for federalism and constitutional change before topping the race back in 2022. Senator Amy Marcos who some thought will join the minority instead because they felt because maybe she has her own ambitions to become the Senate president, and perhaps out of that, perhaps she'll not join. But eventually, she joined the majority, and so she will get the committee on cooperatives. But she'll also get and retain actually the very important committee on foreign relations, kung saan she can call a lot of experts, she can call in a lot of officials to shed light dun sa mga issues na malapit sa puso niya or actually mahalaga para sa ating bayan, whether ito yung West Philippine Sea, whether itong EDCA, whether ito yung foreign policy natin vis-a-vis China. Senator Amy Marcos also gets labor and employment, another very important. So, well, it looks like her joining the majority has landed her multiple very, very important, particular foreign relations, nakuha niya, labor and employment nakuha niya. These are very important committees. And then, of course, you have Jingo Estrada, who will retain his position as at the helm of the national defense. But Senator Robin Padilla will also get public information and mass media. If I'm not mistaken, was it Grace Poe was in charge of this back in the day when she had this hearing about disinformation and fake news and trolls and all of that? So mahalaga rin yan because this committee will have to say a lot if ever magkakaroon na naman tayo ng mga hearings about disinformation, trolls, etc. And that goes to Senator Robin Padilla. Senator, I think there's one more that went to him. I'm trying to find here. But again, he gets multiple ones. Rafi Tulfo also does very well. Obviously, he's not part of the so-called Duterte Seven, but he's obviously seen as a very important, popular senator, even a potential presidential ball. And he's joining the majority was I think a big decision on his part. So he's going to get migrant workers, very very important, something close to his heart. And if you don't if you're not updated, check the TikTok account niya, whereby he talks about this issue. He's also going to be in charge of public services, although public works will go to Senator Mark Villar, very interestingly. Yung kapatid naman niya, si Erwin Tulfo, gets something quite close to the position he used to occupy as member of the cabinet of the president, social justice and rural development. I mean, again, it's quite different from DSWD, but nevertheless, it has to do something with provisions of basic goods. Sustainable development by the way, goes again to another Cayetano, to Senator Pia Cayetano. JV Ercito is in charge of tourism. He will also get LGU, local government committee, which is also quite important one. And then Bongo will also have multiple positions. He will get the committee on youth. Now, obviously, this is important. He'll also get committee on sports. Remember, a big part of his appeal to the younger generation and part of basically his campaign messaging and all was that malaki yung tulong niya sa sports development in the Philippines, and accordingly, of course, that had when we did very well in the Olympics, including our great gymnast getting multiple gold medals. Understandably, you could see why Senator Bongo would try to say that perhaps he was somehow part of the story, right? So you also have multiple health, by the way, malasakit. This is of course very much close, to the heart, or at least very close to the campaign messaging of Senator Bongo throughout the years. Ito yung issue ng healthcare at tulong sa mga elderlies, yung suporta pagdating sa healthcare system. I mean, I could have imagined in an alternative world, Senator actually J.V. Ejercito would have got it, considering the important role that he played back in the day in pushing for universal healthcare. But here you can see Bongo getting health, getting sports, getting youth. So at least three committees I can see here. Now, Camille Villar, interestingly, gets environment. So by the way, speaking of two Villars, one gets environment, one gets public works. Tanay na lang natin si Sir Ronald Llamas about the implications of this. But that's quite an interesting one. Public works and environment. Well, I mean, I mean, um, dapat sana binigay na rin. Um, oh, by the way, science and technology also goes to Alan Peter Cayetano. Wow, that's very interesting. So he gets a lot. He gets, wow, that's a lot. Okay, interesting. Erwin Tulfo also gets games and amusement. So maybe dito pwede niya ipasok yung issue ng bingo, gambling, mga ganun. Pwede niya investigate yan. Now, Sherwin Gatchalian doesn't get too many positions. And of course, let's remember he was part of the Fantastic Five dun sa vote ng remission of the impeachment. He gets one, but this is quite important. Finance. And Kudus, I think he very well deserving siya dito. I mean, he's really a geeky, techie, finance guy, and very much well deserved. Oh, by the way, Senator Robin Padilla also got cultural communities and Muslim affairs, which I think is a very good decision. Also, in fairness, I think this is something that he has to go to him as the sole Muslim member of the Senate. So wow, ang daming nakuha, right? So, um, yep, that's it. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. Yep. So, ipopost natin dito sa baba for those who have not seen. I already made posts about it. So this is what I'm saying, guys. It looks like very much the Duterte friendly, Duterte leaning, or at least the people who have been skeptical of the impeachment against Sara Duterte. People are known to have been very close to the Dutertes, very supportive of the former president. Back in the day, he was the president. Or at the very least, people who are known as not being very, I would say, critical of, some would say, extreme excesses of the previous administration. Um, it looks like a lot of them are going to do very, very well in the next Senate, especially in the Senate majority. So, in that sense, functionally speaking, Bam and Kiko will be really a minority within the majority, right? Minority within majority, in the sense that taga-isa lang silang nakuha ang committee. I'm not discounting its importance. It has budget, it has mandate, it has staff. A lot can be done. So their pragmatic argument still stands. At the same time, you can see the dominance of the bloc within the majority. So this is the majority within the majority. So if you look at the political sociology literature, ang term dyan is hegemonic bloc. So for instance, just to give an example, bawat bansa ay may ruling elite, di ba? Sa bawat bansa may isang ruling elite, sabi natin yung mga congressman, senador, political dynasties, sabi natin yung mga malalaking business groups, conglomerates, even sometimes we would say people who are influential, whether in media, journalism, etc. But within the ruling elite, there's always going to be a hegemonic bloc, a core bloc that has the decisive power and basically veto power on anything that is of matter of national interest, or any major matter of national interest, or major structural reform, or blocking of any structural reform. So in that sense, guys, it is quite clear to me, if you look at just the distribution of key committees, if you look at the composition of the majority, just as we said, this is going to be a very Duterte friendly dominated majority in the Senate. And I think in many ways that could give you a flavor of what is to come, which of course presents a number of, or rather reinforces some of the earlier concerns we raised. Ang unang-una, as we said, it looks like there were more than enough people to make sure that Jesus Cordero remains. One reading is that actually the decisive factor was President BBM, not pushing for an alternative candidate. So it's not Bam and Kiko who made Cheese stay there, right? So in that sense, maybe that's why Cheese didn't feel the need to give them more than one committee. But the fact that so many committees are going to other candidates who are clearly known as being close to the former president, and some of them proudly. Oh, by the way, na-mention ko pa si Bato. Sorry. Did I forget? Oh, Bato get, obviously, of course, public order and dangerous drugs. Oh, yun na naman. Baka, ano naman ang puntahan natin. Okay. Pero isa lang kayo ba to? Ano no, yeah. No, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it. Okay. But it's important. Okay. Anyway, but yung mga iba, talaga multiple na ako nila. So, what I'm saying here is, okay, Kiko and Bam, I'm sure 100% they'll do their best to make the most out of that single committees they got. At the same time, um, I think you don't have to be Nostradamus or a genius to see what's going to be the direction of the wind. Because remember, guys, hindi lang naman Sara impeachment ang issue dito right? Tomorrow, or actually later, we're going to have another former justice who will give us an overview of not only the understanding of what the Supreme Court decision was all about, but also what are the potential remedies, ways to avoid constitutional crisis, and also, if there's still a future for impeachment. So, as impeachment is a very important issue per se, but let's not forget. I mean, just look at the plethora of committees here and the manifold powers and mandates they have, and look at what that could mean pagdating sa direksyon ng Senado, pagdating sa mga priorities ng Senado, mga legislative priorities ng Senado, yung kanilang strategiya or kanilang position pagdating sa malalaking issue. So this is what I'm talking about, guys. This is what's very important. This is what I'm talking about. Na it's key for us to be reassured that being part of that kind of majority. Just to be clear, I didn't even mention Jesus Escudero at all. I'm just talking about this is the majority, this is the breakdown, right? So I think it will be interesting if, I would rather hear, and then by the way, I messaged this to one of those two senators. I won't say which one, but I messaged, and nakita ko naman na deliver naman siya. So, kung nabasa naman, sabi ko, please come out and do a press conference and explain to. I mean, it's nice to have one frame, you, Risa, and Kiko together. That's good, great, fantastic. But we need to see a much more functional version of that, and also some sort of reassurance or rather explanation na given that the hegemonic bloc within the majority is this, given that ito yung distribution of power and resources and committees, and that we can more or less sense ano yung direction of the wind pagdating sa legislative priorities, hearings, proyekto, initiatives, no? Policy priorities ng Senado, how Kiko and Bam will exercise their not only their mandate as senator per se, but senators who won on basically a pink agenda, a pink progressive agenda, and de facto allies of Riza Ontiveros, who is still in the minority, who over and over again chose to be in minority. So again, guys, I hope people appreciate where we are coming from. I'm just looking at the facts of the case. I'm looking at the distribution of power. We're looking at history of the Senate. We had earlier in this show Jean Franco, Dr. Jean Franco, now teaching in UP, but she used to be also in the staff, no? Yung technical staff, yung basically ito yung career people inside the Senate staff. So she knows about how things work. We discussed the ebbs and flows of the Senate. So it's not like we're being unfair here or we're making mumbo jumbo or making up stuff. We are talking to every person of relevance who knows a thing or two of relevance vis-a-vis the Senate. And now basically everything that we have been talking about sinong mga nasa majority, ano yung mga committees na makukuha ng mga nasa majority, sinong dominant block within the majority. So I hope people understand where I'm coming from when I say the principle here should be trust but verify. Yes, I'm 100% for supporting the good people, but you have to constantly also ask for clarification and reassurance. That's how active citizenship works. All right. Anyway, we have more discussion to come in the coming 24 hours or so, God willing, with Sir Ronald Llamas. Balikan natin some of the important issues, post-SONA analysis, the committee, the breakdown of the committees, etc. Kasi ang hirap sa Safe House, ang dami namin host that, magaling lahat. So, there's so many angles and issues that I couldn't flesh out fully, but please still watch it. Lalabas yan on Wednesday. But importantly, also, we want to have another legal luminary, also to share his point of view with us, and we'll hope to have more and more legal minds and more experts also in this show to really look at different sides of the issue. As I said, sometimes our emotions are high, sometimes we say things, against a specific backdrop. But at the end of the day, we all believe in a constitutional democracy, and I think it's very important that we retain our respect for the institutional integrity of whatever institution out there, whether it's the highest court of the country, and yes, even with the legislature. I mean, with all of the frustration people may have about this and that, or for me, it's important to make sure bantayan natin, tignan natin na mabuti, and let's see where this is going. Let's see where this is going. All right. On that note, thank you very much. Maraming salamat. God bless. And please continue to support us, to pray for us, and to also send your constructive criticisms. And together, let's fight the trolls and make sure we maintain our safe space here sa ating minamahal na maliliit and humble na platform. God bless and talk to you soon.